Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. My name is Haley. If you have never been here before, I seriously recommend you checking out part 1 of this video series. I am talking about my story with IBS, chronic gastritis, and just a ton of other things. And it's been a while since I've actually filmed on here. A lot of things have happened with my health since the first video, but we are going to go ahead and get into part 2. So this is going to be kind of a long video. I'm going to be talking about my procedures, everything that has been done to me throughout my life that has to do with my IBS story. So if you are interested in this video, I seriously recommend you getting some tea or some chips or some whatever else you want to eat, because I'm not telling you what to do, but like, this is going to be a little bit of a long video. So I'm just warning you now. You might want to pause, go get a snack, come back, and we can talk about everything. So starting from where we left off, I was recommended to get a colonoscopy by my GI doctor at the time, and I decided pretty much whatever I have to do to get rid of this problem, I will do it. I went and got a colonoscopy. I was 19 years old and I wasn't living at home. I was living with my grandparents at the time. So my grandmother took me, and pretty much the procedure, you are pretty much going through hell for a couple of hours beforehand, where you can't eat anything, you can't drink certain things, different colors, like you can't drink anything that's red, you have to drink clear liquids, and you're also taking laxatives, and laxatives make you poop a lot. And I'm not talking like normal going to the bathroom poop, I'm talking like really gross, watery diarrhea. Did I mention this video was going to be TMI? Because it is. That hurt to go to the bathroom because it was like so frequently. And I remember I had to stay awake in the middle of the night because my procedure was pretty early in the morning, and I had to take, like, I believe it was some type of clear liquid. I don't remember what it was personally anymore, but it was some type of liquid that like made you go to the bathroom more and tasted awful. And I took it and I had to go to the bathroom at like 5 in the morning. And I remember being up like all night just feeling so sick, and I felt nauseous and disgusting, and it was probably the worst procedure I think I've ever had done to me within this whole experience. So what I had to do after this, my grandmother took me in, and it was this facility where you went in, you checked in, and like they gave you a number and you would go in by yourself. The person that you're with does not go with you when you first come into the facility. They give you your badge like on your wrist like they normally would at like any hospital, and then they would put you into your bed. They would have you take all your clothes off, you'd put your gown on, and they'd give you an IV, I believe is what they would do. I can't really remember that procedure because it was so long ago, but they put you into the room and then they would call you in. And I remember they wheeled me into this room, and they had like the light that you like see when you're like gonna get surgery done above me, and there was a lot of doctors around me with different instruments and stuff. And I remember them putting the IV in for the anesthesia, and I remember him saying, okay, I'm gonna count to 3 and by then you should be asleep. And I was like, okay. And I remember laying there, I was on my side, and he started counting down, and I remember hearing 2, and then all I remember is waking up afterwards. And I was very drowsy. My grandmother told me later that I was actually like talking to her prior to me remembering anything. So I guess I was so like all over the place that I was already talking to her and I had no idea. They took me in a wheelchair outside, and then I got up from the wheelchair and got into the car, and immediately I was like, I'm so hungry, because you go so many hours without eating. And I remember we went and got me like a gluten-free sandwich, because at the time I wasn't eating any gluten either. And I got a gluten-free sandwich, and we were just like living my best life. I had half the sandwich, went home, took a nap. This is another thing I want to mention that is TMI, but I didn't know this because I was so out of it when I woke up. I didn't know that this was a thing that was going to happen. The first time you go to the bathroom, you are going to bleed. I didn't know that. I was shocked when I got up from the toilet, and I was like, so I didn't know that, and I like told my grandmother, and she was like, oh yeah, they told you that was gonna happen, and I like had no idea because I had been asleep pretty much the whole time. So you pretty much nap a lot afterwards and you recover pretty quickly. What they found during my procedure was absolutely nothing. They found no polyps, they found no cancer, they found nothing. And it kind of made me feel like it was like another wall in the way. Like I couldn't get past this wall of them telling me that there was like nothing wrong with me, and I just kind of felt stupid. I was like, I just went through that whole procedure and they found nothing and I'm fine. But I'm not fine because I feel like I'm dying on the inside. After I moved back home and I decided to live here and go to college here, I had a point in my life where I realized how overweight I was. I realized that I was pushing over 200 pounds and I needed to make a change ASAP. So I decided to start going to the gym. I started going to Planet Fitness, just mostly because it was the cheapest option and I didn't really have a great job at the time. So I started going to the gym. I started eating a lot better. I stopped eating meat at the time. I focused on what my body wanted, what it needed, and I worked out and I was super healthy and I ended up losing 30 pounds. And a lot of people on this channel, this is where they found me, was because of the story I told about how I lost 30 pounds. From then on, I was kind of like known as like this health person, when on the inside I was still really suffering and I felt like I couldn't do that for people on this account. I felt like people really wanted me to like push my health and fitness and be that person and that supporter for them, but for myself I was still struggling with my weight. I was still struggling with how I felt at the time, and I was really struggling with my own mental health problems, and I just thought it would be a way for me to be able to get bigger on this platform. And in the end, it ended up hurting me in the long run because I still didn't understand what was wrong with me, and I couldn't tell people how I felt because I felt like what I was doing at the time was better than how I felt. So I just kind of ignored my own problems and just kept making videos and kept working out and losing weight in unhealthy ways that I don't agree with now. I stopped having anxiety. I stopped having panic attacks. I stopped having a lot of stomach pains, and they would kind of frequently come and go. It wasn't as frequent. It wasn't like an everyday thing for me. So I just figured whatever was going through my system got through my system and I'm okay now. And unfortunately, that's not the case. About, I want to say mid to late 2019, I started having panic attacks again. I started to feel anxious more often again, and I had gotten out of a really bad relationship and into a more healthy, at the time in my mind, relationship. And when it started to kind of go south is when my panic attack started to come back. And I didn't really realize what was going on because I had always dealt with anxiety in my life. It just wasn't a daily occurrence. But once it started to be a daily occurrence again, I really noticed how I was changing as a human being. I started to gain a lot of weight because I was binge eating. And when I start binge eating is when I personally know my mental health is out of control and I have to focus on myself. After I got out of that relationship and after all of the things that happened that transpired within that relationship happened, I began to just sit and think like, what is wrong with me? So I started to have anxiety every single day. At the time, I didn't really realize what was going on and what was causing a lot of that anxiety to happen. But for me, now I realize that a lot of the things that I was doing, like dating guys like one after the other and not giving myself time to be able to reflect on what had actually happened in my relationships. I dated guys solely on the purpose of knowing that I wanted to be with somebody. When I'm in a relationship with someone, I want to focus on them. I want to focus on myself, and I want to focus on us being together for the rest of my life. Because I'm that type of person that's like, I want to be in a relationship because I want to be with this person for the rest of my life. I don't want to just date around and like have fun and like hook up and like all of that stuff. I want to be with somebody for the rest of my life. That is my ultimate goal when it comes to dating. And for me, as a person, I love to help others. And when I see people that I'm dating feel so low about themselves, all they want to do is help. But with that, what I was doing is I was only helping them and I wasn't helping myself at all. And I was staying in relationships that were unhealthy for me and consistently going back to these people because they were unhealthy for me. And I didn't understand it at the time. I just kept going back because I was like, no, I love this person. No, I want to be there for this person. But in reality, I was only affecting myself. When I became single again, I realized that my anxiety was really bad. I realized that every single night I was going to bed at like 1 a.m. because I couldn't focus on myself. I couldn't focus on what I needed in life. I couldn't focus on what was really affecting me. I couldn't focus on that. So I would stay up late at night and I would have mental breakdowns and cry and just I was so concerned over myself because I didn't know what was wrong with me. And my anxiety started to bring out other symptoms, and these symptoms became stomach pains, extreme heartburn to the point where I could like feel my throat just like swelling up because it hurt so bad. I was having abdominal pain. I was having migraines again, and I had never had migraines in like the past 5 years. And all of these things were happening with anxiety. Like I would get an anxiety attack, I would get a stomach pain. I would get a stomach pain and then I would have anxiety. There were times where I'd have to go home from work because I couldn't stay at work because I was having such a bad panic attack. There was one point when it got really bad where I couldn't remember driving home. I would start driving home and I would have a panic attack, and like it literally just, when I have a panic attack, it's like I gotta focus going straight and I can't, I would, it's hard to explain because for myself I still don't understand what was going on, but there would be times where I would literally hit myself to be like, Haley, you are fine. Like, you're okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You're gonna be okay. And I wouldn't remember getting home because I would literally just be like, I would literally hit myself like in the head, just be like, you are fine. Like, you are okay. And that's when I realized it was starting to get really bad and I needed to get help. The last time when I realized that I really needed to get help for this was one day I was at work and it was a pretty normal shift and I didn't have any problems. And then one of my coworkers left and one of my other coworkers came in, and I was going to be leaving in like an hour anyways. It was a pretty slow day and I started to feel anxiety. So I asked my coworker like, hey, do you mind if I like go take like a walk around the block just to like clear my head? And she was like, yeah, totally, like don't worry about it. And the entire time I was on this walk, my heartburn was extreme, like so extreme that I honestly thought I was gonna throw up. Like a couple of times I would sit like on the side of the road just thinking like, just throw up already, like just get this over with. I walked around the block like 3 times and I came back and I was still panicking, and my coworker was just like, you should just go home, like you're not helping here, like you need to go take care of yourself. And I did not think I was gonna be able to drive home, so I walked to a bench in a park that was near where I worked. And my other boss, my graphic design boss that I work with, I called her because at the time we were like still getting to know each other, and like I was like, hey, like you live 2 minutes away, I don't know who else to call, like I just need to distract my brain and get out of this anxiety that I'm having. And she was like, yeah, totally, like do you need me to pick you up? Can you drive here? Like what do you need? And I am so thankful because she came and helped me. Like she has 2 kids and she came and picked me up and we worked together for a little bit and talked, and it made the world of a difference. That was kind of like the turning point because I realized that I couldn't control this on my own. I couldn't just go to therapy and think that this was going to be okay. And I realized I really needed some serious medical help. I needed some serious just help from anybody who would listen. I needed a naturopath. I needed to talk to my doctors and really tell them what was going on and like be serious about this and not just like let it go. I went to the urgent care about 2 or 3 times for stomach pains, and both times they would give me like a scan or an x-ray and they didn't find anything, and it felt like I was getting no answer. And I went to my last urgent care facility, and like the third time I went, and the doctor I saw finally was like, you need to see a GI specialist and you need to get a physician, like a primary care doctor. And I was finally like, okay. And she referred me to both of those, and I went home, and 2 days later I had my first appointment. So I started to take antidepressants. I am on the form called amitriptyline. It doesn't just help my anxiety, but it also is known to help IBS. So I am on that. I'm on a very low dose because my body is very, very, very sensitive to anything that I put in it. So I am on that, and I take that at 9 p.m. every night. I also take Prilosec now. Those are like the two things that are going with each other that I am taking. And my GI doctor told me that I should get an endoscopy. They were like honestly so shocked that I had never even had one before. So I was referred to get an endoscopy, and they sent me home. I was a little scared because they were gonna stick a tube down my throat, and I just think that's like kind of like a scary thought for somebody who has emetophobia and is terrified of things like that happening. So I kind of just went home, tried to take these medications, and tried to learn about like the low FODMAP diet and things like that. But then there was a point within that time period where I could not stay asleep. There was like, I was up for 24 hours. I was in just so much pain. And then the morning where like everything kind of like took another turn for me happened. I woke up, and I had just a few minutes before I had to actually get up. So I decided that I was going to sleep in for like 10 more minutes just to like kind of like relax a little bit. And I fell back asleep, and I woke up like pretty startled, and my cat was like laying on top of me, and I just felt like this extreme pain in my stomach, and it was like more like the lower stomach. I'm pointing to it, but you can't even see it. My lower stomach, like right where my small intestine and my stomach like meet up. I didn't know what was going on with me. I was like, okay, I feel like maybe I just need to go to the bathroom. Like maybe I just need to go to the bathroom. So I got up, and I remember like holding onto my bed frame up there. It's like a metal frame, so I was holding onto it, and I was just like, oh my god, like I am in so much pain. And my cat was kind of like across from me, and he was just looking at me like he was terrified because I had this face on where I was just like, oh my god, I am in so much pain. Like I'd never been in this so much pain before. So I got up, I went into the bathroom, and I started to feel dizzy. And I started to go to the bathroom, but realized I could not sit there, and I needed to like get help. And I got up from the toilet, and I felt like I was gonna pass out. So I started walking to the door and realized I was about to pass out. So I started to get to the floor, because when you're about to pass out, you don't want to fall down, you don't want to hit your head. So I started to get to the floor, and then I don't remember anything. I remember waking up, I was on the floor near the door, and I was very weak. I could feel that I was like sweating because I was super pale. I was like, I need to get help. Like the only person that was home at the time was my dad, and he was asleep because at the time he used to work nights. So I was like, how do I get his attention? Like I'm laying on the floor in the bathroom, I have no energy, but the door was closed, and the one time I closed it and I didn't lock it behind me. So I just like started banging on the door, like screaming, like, Dad, wake up. And I remember I could hear him get out of bed, or I heard him say what, and then I kept hitting the door, and then he got up and came in and found me on the floor. And he asked me like, is there any way you can get up? And I was like, I can't get up. Like it hurts so bad. And I remember just like laying there like in a ball because it hurt so bad. And I'm sorry, like I'm kind of emotional over this part. He asked me if he should call 911, and I said yeah, because there was no way in hell I was getting up from where I was. He called 911, told them I had passed out, and within like 2 minutes they were there. And they came inside, pretty much asked me all these questions, got me on a gurney somehow, and they had to like help me get up a little bit so I wasn't in too much pain, and lie on my side in like this gurney. And they got me in the ambulance, and they gave me some medication for the pain, and I felt a little bit better after that. But it got me to the hospital, and I was left in hallway. So much stuff that I like saw when I was just laying in that hallway, just like wanting to know what the hell was wrong with me. There was a guy to my left who's probably, I don't even know if he's alive anymore, but he was not doing well. He was a lot older of a gentleman, and he was just laying in his bed, barely breathing. A lady to my other side was having a miscarriage, so she was in extreme pain. And then I'm just like in this hallway watching like all of this stuff happen, already with anxiety and trying to deal with that. And they pretty much told me that you just have a stool in your body. There's nothing wrong with you. I did end up going to the bathroom, but I was still in pain. Like, there was so much pain, and the heartburn was just so bad. And I felt better after I had gone to the bathroom, but not a lot. Like, it was enough where I was like, okay, maybe that's all it was. Like, maybe my anxiety is just adding to this problem now. My dad and my mom were going on a trip the next day, and my mom was already gone on this trip, and my dad was like, are you going to be okay? Like, are you gonna be okay so we can go on this trip? And I was like, yeah, like, I should be fine, because, like, I truly felt like I was going to be fine. I didn't think anything else was gonna happen. So he left the next day. I took him to the airport. I seemed totally fine in the morning, totally fine through the day, but then at about midnight the next day, I was in pain again. And it was just like before. And I had woken up in my sleep. I was sleeping on the couch because I couldn't find any relief sleeping in my own bed. I texted my dad. He responded right away. It was like 4 a.m. at this point. I'd waited 4 hours just to like make sure I could be okay. I had to call 911 on myself because I wasn't doing okay. And they got there really quick again, took me to the hospital again. And once again, I was told, oh, you're okay. The only thing that's wrong with you is your potassium's low. And of course it was low because they had given me all these laxatives to get everything out of my body. So they sent me home again. And I was in so much pain. I remember that I called my mom on my way out of the hospital because I didn't have a ride to get home. They weren't home to take me home. And the doctor had asked me, like, do you have a ride home? And I was like, no, I don't. I don't have a ride home. Like, nobody's here. And they knew that. And they still sent me out of my way. Like, they still told me to go. And I was sitting in the lobby and I was just, like, crying because I was so tired. I was in so much pain and I just wanted some relief. And I called my mom and I was crying, just telling her, like, can you please call an Uber for me? Like, I just want to go home. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. And all of these things. And they decided from there that they were going to head home. Because I was just in so much pain that I couldn't even function, like, on my own. So I got home. She called me an Uber, and I laid on the couch, and I watched, like, abandoned place videos for, like, 6 hours while I waited for my parents to get home, and slept a little bit on the couch, and just rested. And the doctor told me that I should not go to work. She told me that I should just stay home, rest as much as possible until my endoscopy the next week. And that's what I did. I called out of work. I stayed home. I relaxed as much as possible, tried to keep my stress at a very low minimum. And I went and had my endoscopy a week later from that point. So the endoscopy was pretty much just like the colonoscopy, but without all the going to the bathroom. So I couldn't eat. I had to fast for, I believe it was like 16 hours. I can't remember how long it was actually, so I'm not going to say that. But if I remember, I'll put it right here. But I had to fast. I had to only drink liquids. I could have my medication in the morning, and that was it. So I went in to this facility, and they took my weight. They made me go to the bathroom if I needed to, made me dress down again, put their gown on, put a cap on with my hair up so they wouldn't get in my face, and they put me in an IV. And she missed the IV twice. So I had this nice bruise on my arm and all of these like other marks on my arm from being in the hospital because I had fake tanned, and they wheeled me in, same experience. They told me like 1, 2, 3, and I was out. I don't remember anything. I wasn't as dizzy as I was with the colonoscopy, but it was definitely just as like, oh god, I'm awake now and now I'm starving. So I went and got food like directly after that procedure as well. It's really not that big of a deal. I did not feel sick or anything afterwards. I wasn't feeling like I was gonna gag, nothing like that. I wasn't nauseous or anything. It's a really quick, simple procedure for any of you that are like terrified to get an endoscopy. It was probably the easiest procedure I've ever had in my life, and afterwards I felt so high from the medication that I just felt like I was like on cloud 9, so it wasn't that bad at all. I have chronic gastritis, and I definitely have IBS. Now at this time, I wasn't eating any gluten because I was on the low FODMAP diet because it was prescribed by my doctor to try that. So what I know now is that because I wasn't eating gluten, there was no way for them to see if I had celiac disease. And I personally have just stayed away from it because I haven't had any issues with my stomach since staying away from it. So I'm just keeping away from it for now, just to see what my body does. I haven't had problems since then. So that's pretty much it. I had a colonoscopy. I was in the hospital twice. And I had an endoscopy within the span of like 4 years. And what part 3 is going to be about is what I know now. Because now I have seen a naturopath for 2 months. I have been getting acupuncture for my IBS for the past month. I have been seeing my GI doctor, and I've gotten more prescriptions from her, and I have a little bit more news on like what's going on with me, how the low FODMAP the diet has been doing with me, and I want to make a video about that because I hope that will help somebody in the future. So I will see you guys for part 3. That'll be up next week. I already have it filmed. I just need to edit it as well. But I love you guys so much, and please stay safe out there right now. I know it's a really horrible time for a lot of us and for people that have immune disorders and autoimmune diseases and just a whole slew of things. There's so many things that you could have that could cause you to literally die right now, and I know that's probably not helping a lot of people's anxiety. I know it certainly hasn't helped mine, with a mother that has problems where she could die from getting the coronavirus. So just stay safe, stay healthy, stay home if you can. If you can't stay home, like I can't stay home because I have a job where I have to go work, just be safe and do the best that you can right now. So I love you guys so much. I'm praying for all of you, and I will see you in part 3 next week. Bye guys.